Hey everybody, Al Noriker here for KastKing. Today we're up here in beautiful Colorado. We're actually at 11 Mile Reservoir. Now 11 Mile is located in an area we call South Park. It's about 8,500 feet up here, so it's quite high. Exceptional fishery for trout, pike, kokanee salmon, a lot of different things, but it's really quite an incredible place. And we're going to be doing a complete series on fly fishing to help you get started, or maybe teach you a few new things about the sport of fly fishing that even if you're an experienced angler, you might find a few tips. This morning what I'd like to talk about is fly rod selection. Okay, so you know there's tons of different lengths, actions, line weights of fly rods, and for somebody first getting started in fly fishing, sometimes it's kind of difficult to figure out which one do I want to start with. You might go into a fly shop and you'll see hundreds of rods on the line or on the rack, or you might go to our website and you're going to see a lot of fly rods listed from a 3 weight all the way up to a 12 weight, 10 weight fly rods, and you're going, wow, do I need a bigger fly rod for big fish? Do I need a small fly rod for smaller fish? And that's really not the correct way. So let's talk a little bit about fly rod selection, and then I'll take you through some of the actions as well. So first of all, if you're going to pick a fly rod for most conditions, if you only had the ability to buy one fly rod, the number one selling length and line weight of fly rods in the U.S. today is a 9-foot for 5 weight. It's a very average length and weight, but it handles so many different types of applications. This is a fly rod that I can use in a lake, whether I'm casting from the bank like here, or if I'm out in my flow tube, or even in my boat. But it's a fly rod that works well for dry flies. It works well for nymph fishing, subsurface techniques with indicators and split shot. It also works great if I'm going to throw streamers, and it handles most conditions for wind. Now a 9-foot 5 weight is also a fly rod that'll handle a lot of different species of fish. We fish mostly trout here, but even the guys that want to go out and chase a bass, you might get by with a 5 weight. It's a great overall rod. Now certainly there are specific techniques and specific applications that will require different lengths and different line weights. And we'll talk about those a little bit too. For example, if you're using a 5 weight fly rod, you're going to want to match that up with a 5 weight fly line. Now in some cases, you could go up 1 line weight. So if I have a 5 weight rod, I could get by with using a 6 weight line. It actually helps to load the line in short casting conditions a little bit easier, make the casting a little bit better. But typically you want to match the line weight of the fly line with the line weight of the fly rod. Now, and actually with our Exergy line as an example right here, this is our Aquacolor Exergy fly line. It's a 100-foot fly line, it has double micro loops. And when I designed these fly lines, I actually built them about 1/2 line weight heavier than its stated line weight. And what that does, it gives the angler a little bit extra weight to make that short casting distance a little bit easier. Now some of the other rods we might pick. Now if I go up to, say, Rocky Mountain National Park or some of the small streams around South Park here, I might want a little bit shorter rod. I might want a 7.5 foot or an 8-foot rod. And I might want to go down to, say, a 3 or 4 weight line. I'm going to downsize my technique, maybe fish more dry flies on the surface, and I don't need quite as big of a rod, quite as heavy or quite as fast of a rod for that application. Now, when I'm doing that, I don't want you to worry about the size of fish that you can catch when I downsize my rod, because I can tell you I've caught many really big fish on 3 and 4 weight rods. It's not the size of fish that you can catch when you go downsize on the rod, it's the application for the type of casting technique, dry fly versus nymphing, maybe not as much wind. Certainly a 3 weight rod begins to get a little difficult to cast that into a heavy wind in your face. That's when you need a little more powerful rod, a 5 weight, maybe even a 6 weight rod. In that particular condition, more wind, longer casts, bigger flies, then I'm going to go up to, say, a 5 weight, 6 weight, maybe even a 7 weight at some time. So let's talk about those heavier rods. Now a 7-weight and an 8-weight rod, those are great rods if you're going to go bass fishing, or if I'm going to come out here and chase some of these giant 40 and 50-inch pike that live in this lake, because I definitely need more power. But probably the most important thing there is I'm going to be casting a fly that might be this long. And if I try to cast a big heavy fly with a heavier line, maybe even a sink tip line, to do that on a 3-weight or a 4-weight fly rod would become very difficult. So I'm going to upsize my line weight on my rod to match the technique that I'm using, not necessarily just the size of the fish that I'm going to catch. There's a lot of times I wish I was catching bigger fish when I'm using my 7-weight rod, but that doesn't always be the case. The line weight on the rod really matches your application. What type of flies, what are the wind conditions, how long the casts are. If I want to make a very delicate presentation, again, I'm going to be down on that 3 or 4-weight fly rod as opposed to that 7 or 8-weight. So if we bring that all back together and we just think about where we're going to fish most often, what kind of flies that we're going to use, then we can make good decisions on which fly rod we're going to select for that application. But again, generally speaking, a 9-foot 5-weight rod is a great all-around rod. It'll work in almost any condition except very specific applications, and it's a rod that you can have for a lifetime and really have great success with that. We'll talk more about fly rods as we go through the casting portion of this, but for today, I'm Al Noriker with KastKing, and I want to help you get introduced to a wonderful sport of fly fishing.